Welcome back to Lamb's Cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about some really important news on Bitcoin. And you don't usually hear anything about Bitcoin, but let me read you the big news that came out. It's right here. According to Blockworks, the U.S. Department of Justice just seized roughly $3.4 billion worth of Bitcoin. It's going to correct this. This is a mistake. It was worth $3.4 billion during the height of the bull market, but Bessie Lou failed to actually recalculate it. Because basically it says, if you continue reading, it says it was obtained from a man who unlawfully obtained more than 50,000 Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is below 21,000. So if you take 20,000 times 50, you get maybe over $1 billion. You don't get 3.4. But the point is, it's a lot of money. And this is related to the Silk Road dark website, internet illegal crypto marketplace back in 2012. And this man is called James Zong. He pleaded guilty on November 4th of committed wire fraud. And the whereabouts of the 50,000 remained unknown for 10 years, according to the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. And also, official found over $500,000 in cash. And that hasn't changed. So maybe I should say the actual number, $662,000 in cash. And also, you heard about this eccentric couple, the New York couple from the Upper West Side, and his wife was a rapper, a shitty rapper nonetheless, and they were indicted of stealing 120,000 Bitcoin. And then there was another Silk Road related seizure back in November 2020, netting the government another 70,000 Bitcoin. So the latest haul means that the U.S. government has accumulated a lot of Bitcoin, and this Bitcoin goes to what's called the Treasury Executive Office for asset forfeiture, and then they get rid of it, basically. They sell it. And Tim Draper recently acquired this Bitcoin. So what I want to talk to you today is really a twofold thing. It's not just this. It's number one, that we've got a shitload of Bitcoin now that we're going to be trying to get rid of as a country. But here's an idea. What if we kept that Bitcoin? So I'm going to calculate that this Bitcoin in total, at the minimum, is like $1.5 billion. So let's say it's between $1.5 and $3 billion. It's probably even higher. So what are the largest treasuries in the world? Well, we go to the website, Bitcoin Treasuries. And number one are the current market cap of $3 billion. So this is the value of the Bitcoin market cap. This is not the market cap of Microstrategy. So Microstrategy has $3 billion worth of Bitcoin. And then comes Marathon Digital Holding, which has 1.2, but that's different. Marathon Digital is one of the largest proof of work miners. So they're supposed to have Bitcoin on their treasuries. So we don't count that. Then there's Tesla, which got rid of a lot of Bitcoin. And then there's Block, which is going to be we discussed this earlier. Block is going to be a big cryptocurrency firm, in my opinion. It's going to be Block, Twitter, and perhaps Google, Alphabet. So maybe that's one to watch, but it's still small. And then there's Hut Mining, of course, that's a mining company. Riot's a mining company, and Coinbase Global is a centralized exchange, so you don't count them. You don't count Hive because that's a proof of mining company, and Galaxy Digital is a custodian, and they have some investments in that, so you won't count that. So only really one we're talking about is MicroStrategy. And so I think the U.S. Treasury, instead of trying to get rid of all the Bitcoin, they should start keeping it in their treasury. They should just keep it. Now, the U.S. government is worried about cryptocurrency. They're worried about the U.S. losing its hegemony. It's about the US losing the dollar as a reserve currency. But you know what? If we don't buy Bitcoin as a currency now, we're still going to be at risk of the dollar losing its reserve status. So I'm thinking, what if we actually kept it? And remember what Nikola Tesla said, not the car company, the scientist. He said that energy in the future will be the most important assets. And remember, Bitcoin is a form of energy because you need energy in order to do proof of mining work. So basically, Bitcoin is a form of transformed energy. So I think if the US government actually acquired Bitcoin, it would maintain the status of Bitcoin, the status of the US dollar as being a reserve currency. And in fact, if you look at stablecoin, and it's right here, this is a coin market cap. If you look at the total aggregate value of US dollar based stablecoin, right here, it's at 149 billion. Let's just call it 150 billion dollars in stablecoin. That's up from $3 billion, less than $3 billion in 2019. So it's a huge amount. So this is at risk of moving to other denominations like the Chinese yuan and the Japanese yen and not the Russian Russian currency, but it could move into alternative forms of currency. So if the U.S. Treasury made it a strategic allocation of Bitcoin instead of alongside gold into the U.S. Treasury, it will assure that stablecoins remain US dollar denominated. So this is a very, very important point. And you know who talked about this? I'm not sure if you guys know who this is. This is Jason Lowery. He works for the new military space command, and he argues the same point. This is an old interview, but I think it's very important. And Jason argues also that the US should adopt and embrace Bitcoin. And also, I like to think of it like this. Think about the Chinese. Think about people that are outside SWIFT, right? The SWIFT messaging service, basically for where banks move money. Think about that. If we kick out Russia and all our enemies, we're going to lose that network effect in SWIFT. That's number one. And number two, people worry about Russia, but China is really where we have to worry about because China has its huge military. So here's the deal. Do you remember years ago, before we were born, we had the Russian Sputnik moment where Russia made a satellite, right, circling the Earth, and we were scared shit about it. And that was a symbol of Russia gaining traction in science. Well, you know what? China had said they were getting rid of Bitcoin mining. They were against Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. But China is rapidly adopting a centralized, CBDC, a centralized currency. And if China, God forbid, actually adopts Bitcoin, that's going to be the United States Sputnik moment. So the United States needs to adopt Bitcoin in its treasury. So I'm going to play this for you. This is something from Jason Lowery, and he talks about embracing Bitcoin. I'll just play a few minutes for you, if you can hear it. Oops.
Just doesn't make sense from.
Let's go back. I'm going to start it from the beginning. Okay, let's go.
That they could do this. They could create a CBDC that's backed by Bitcoin with exchangeable, and so and maybe like make the CBDC non-taxable as legal currency, and then keep the Bitcoin as taxable. Like there's so many different ways that it could go down. There's good ways, there's bad ways. But what I don't think is possible to argue rationally is whether or not we should buy it, because it just doesn't make sense from every angle that I take, even if it represents a direct threat to their United States USD hegemony. You buy it as insurance against its own success.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to worry about Bitcoin destroying your hegemony if you own the most Bitcoin, especially.
So that's the key point here. The key point is you don't have to worry as a country. You don't have to worry about Bitcoin being a threat if your own treasury owns Bitcoin. So I hope you found this video interesting and unique, and I hope you liked it. And if you like it, we're going to do more.